Beautiful. All right. Good evening. I don't know what day it is today. So what's up, Allison? Today we're talking all things calories, macros, routine, sticking to the routine, goals, all that good stuff. When you guys have Allie back there stretching out behind me. You know, if you look at that back there, if you can see her. Um, so we're going to talk through all these things because when we jump on your coaching calls and your consultations, we always kind of revert back to calories and macros and the importance of them and why they matter and your routine and picking out your low-hanging fruit and what we would call low-hanging fruit, which is like the easiest things for you to be able to accomplish to make steps in the right direction towards your goals. So that's what we're going to kind of talk on all day today. We are going to open it up with some quizzes. So if you can unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself. If you can put it in the chat box, put it in the chat box. But I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions to get your brains turning. Fun fact, it is study. And when you put effort into answering the question, even if you answer the question wrong, you actually learn like 10 times better than if you don't answer at all, just to let you know. So put an answer in there, even if it's wrong, totally okay. Question number one, we're going to talk about calories first. So everything we're going to do is about calories. Explain the why in a second. But to open it up, can someone tell me besides coaches, maybe Leslie, because she is studying to be a coach, what is a calorie? We talk about calories all the time, but what actually is it? Shara cannot answer. What's up, Stacy? Put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. Who's iPhone 5?
Does mine say Stacy?
Yours says Stacy. You're not iPhone.
Okay.
What is a calorie? We got, is it the measure of energy burned, a unit of measure, unit of heat, amount of energy it takes to boil 1 liter of water? Megan's a cheater. It's me. I don't know who it's me is. Oh, yes, I do. I know who you are. All right. So a unit of heat. It's a measurement. It's all it is. It's a unit of heat. It is the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 liter of water 1 degree Celsius. All it is. It's a unit of heat. It's a unit of measurement. Measurement. It's just a unit of energy. That's what I say. A unit of energy. So when we talk about calories, it goes calories. So someone said the measure of energy burned. It is, but it's also energy consumed, right? So it's through foods, drinks, sauces, seasonings, dressings, alcohol, all have calories. And then everything you do to include just breathing and blinking and hair growth and eye health, all is calories burned. Those things take energy to be needed, or else you would die. When we measure your metabolism, we measure your metabolism in calories. So we have this craze of people in the world who say things like calories don't matter. Well, if you go get your metabolism measured, they measure it in calories. So how could calories not matter if the basic unit of life, your metabolism, is also measured in calories? It doesn't make sense. So when people say things like, well, I tried to count calories and I didn't lose any weight, or I didn't gain any weight, or I didn't see any differences, what I'm trying to tell you is you probably counted calories wrong. Is probably what happened. Or we weren't as accurate as we wanted to be, or we left out some things here and there, or we did count calories Monday through Friday, but then we did not count calories Saturday and Sunday, and we negated all of our progress. So just know that calories are the basic unit of energy to measure your life, to measure your body's function, what it needs to keep you alive. To include everything that we talk about is measured in calories. Nutrition labels are in calories. We measure exercise in calories. So literally everything that we talk about from a health and nutrition standpoint is in calories. So if you're like, hey, I'm following a meal plan and I'm counting calories, and someone says, well, calories don't matter, just bring this back up to them, right? And so I made a little Facebook post in our Facebook group the other day, and I talked about, are calories created equally? And that answer is yes, they are created equally. A calorie is just a unit of energy. It would be the equivalent of saying it's 100 degrees outside, and someone was like, well, it's a bad 100 degrees. And then someone else was like, no, it's a good 100 degrees. That doesn't make sense. We don't say that it's just 100 degrees. Now there's humid and not humid, but it's still 100 degrees. So calories are the same way. 100 calories is 100 calories. Now, the calories can come from different sources, and we'll talk about those sources here in a second when we talk about macros, but 100 calories is still 100 calories. When we go exercise, and maybe we shoot for a caloric goal, or maybe we're shooting for just to burn overall more calories through the day, and we say, hey, I worked out for an hour and I burned 400 calories. Another very important thing to pay attention to is we didn't say you burned 100 grams of carbs or 10 grams of fats or 50 grams of protein. We just said you burned 400 calories. And we're going to talk about why that's important as well, because we're going to pull from all of those sources, proteins, carbs, and fats, while you exercise in the form of calories. And so, but it's not just one or the other, it's all of them at the same time in different proportions, but we annotate that and kind of try to control it through calories. So a great kind of way I always tell people is, if you wanted to see more progress, you could either cut your calories nutritionally or increase your exercise or intensity of exercise to burn more calories. So those kind of are two ways that we can lose more weight or lose weight faster. So we can take this all the way up in through supplements, or Shara was sending me something the other day about drink boiled, I think it was ginger and cinnamon before bed. It was like a concoction of like 3 things. And if you drink this drink before bed, you're going to lose all this weight, and it's going to reduce bloating, and it's going to do all this stuff. Well, those things by themselves don't subtract calories. They don't turn on your metabolism. That's impossible. You can't turn on your metabolism, because if your metabolism was turned off, you die. So that's not possible. So what I told her was, what's actually happening, there's health benefits to ginger, there's health benefits to cinnamon, there's health benefits to those things, but not in a way that we are going to see more weight loss or start weight loss. So what I was telling her was, oftentimes these supplements or these drinks or these concoctions that we try, it's like the spark to the flame that we needed to light to be healthier. So it's the spark to get people to be more health conscious. So oftentimes when we start to drink something crazy like that, we also start to sleep a little bit better. We start to pay a little bit closer attention to what we're eating. We start to feel better, so therefore we start to move more. And those things are helping us lose weight, not the drink itself. The drink was just the spark that we needed. What's up, Shara?
I was gonna say, I couldn't find the original ad that I found her in, but she was bragging about how she got her body without going to the gym and without doing cardio, just doing those things.
So yeah, so when we hear things like that, I would love to say, and no one ever does it, no one ever shows what you were doing before and what you were doing after. That's the biggest problem, is when we see these ads and we see these people start bragging about this one thing changed their life. Back from your wallet. We never get the full picture, right? And so the full picture is always almost, hey, I started drinking this drink, but you know what else I stopped doing? I stopped drinking wine before bed because I'm now drinking this drink. And I stopped eating chips and salsa before bed because I'm now drinking this drink. And I started sleeping better because of the benefits of this drink. And I started having more energy throughout the day because I started drinking this drink. And those things are, again, super beneficial and can lead to weight loss or whatever goals or health benefits that they're kind of tacking onto it. Which is always kind of, exciting to think about because that spark is obviously a real thing. That spark, the thing that's going to make you get up and go do something or prioritize your health differently. That's always a real thing. We just give all of the credit to the supplement or to the drink, and we don't give credit to ourselves. And that's who you should really give the credit to is, hey, you drank this drink and it was great. But what it really did was shift my mindset to be healthier, to prioritize things differently, to not drink wine before bed because I'm drinking this drink. I was, how much of that drink could negate me eating McDonald's every night before bed? And the answer is probably none. Like the drink would not overcome the amount of McDonald's I'm eating. And if it did, I would be very interested to do it as a study and see like, okay, hey, I didn't change anything. I ate McDonald's every day before bed for the last 30 days. Then I started this drink and then I continued to eat McDonald's every day. And I would love to see if there was any change. And my idea would be that there is not a change, okay? So just know that there's not a supplement or a pill or a powder out there that sparks your metabolism. The closest thing we have to helping us burn more calories are stimulants, much like caffeine. And the way that caffeine works is it helps us just be more active by blocking fatigue receptors. So caffeine does not give us energy because energy is in the form of calories and caffeine is calorie free. So there's no calories in caffeine. So therefore caffeine cannot give us energy. It's a fatigue reducer or a fatigue blocker, and it's a nervous system stimulant, meaning it turns on your brain to be able to function better, faster, more accurately, things like that. So if you're like, well, I want to burn more calories throughout the end of the day, go get cracked out on some caffeine. Time out. I didn't say that. Don't go do that and then have a heart attack and say, Joseph told me to drink a bunch of caffeine and I had a heart attack, so sue Joseph. Please consult your doctors before you start a caffeine routine. But it's kind of the closest thing that we have. Aside from like amphetamines or other stimulants that have now been banned, like ephedra and stuff like that, those things have now been banned because they were too close to like cocaine, but they were in supplements and fat burners and stuff like that. But you've never seen an overweight crackhead, I guarantee it. All righty, because it's helping us burn more calories throughout the end of the day. That's a silly example, but it's the truth. So if we can burn more calories day in and day out and eat less calories, crackheads can also not eat for a really long time. And so that's kind of how we start to see weight loss and things like that, okay? So taking that conversation and pivoting into what is an empty calorie? You hear it all the time. That's an empty calorie. Can someone put it in the chat box? What does that mean? What is an empty calorie? I'm going to drink some drinks while we wait. I'll give an example. No nutrients, low nutritional value, no nutritional value. Either it doesn't exist, or some would say a calorie without nutritional value. So all of you are correct and incorrect at the same time. Empty calories don't exist. Little Debbie cakes have probably more nutritional value than you think. So we know there's differences between calorically dense food and nutritionally dense food. And there's an actual equation to figure out the nutritional density of food. So if something is more nutritionally dense, it's technically considered healthier. We did this thing in college where we compared all the nutrients in a McDonald's cheeseburger to like a piece of fruit. And by equation, the McDonald's cheeseburger was more nutritionally dense than the piece of fruit. So it's just an equation. So it doesn't make sense to even say that, because we would all say, oh, McDonald's is bad for us and the fruit is good for us. But from the nutritional value equation, the McDonald's cheeseburger is actually more nutrient dense. So even that doesn't make sense. And we can't just pay attention to calories, and this version of empty calories doesn't really exist because we would consider some bad things as empty calories, but they probably have more nutritional content, like electrolytes is in that equation, which is where sodium and potassium get dumped in, and it actually just completely negates this whole equation and this whole thought process of nutritionally healthy foods. And so just know that when people say it's an empty calorie, most of us and most of them don't know what they're talking about. So I always ask people, like, what is an empty calorie? And most of them say, oh, it has no nutritional value. Well, a McDonald's cheeseburger has tons of nutrients in it, tons of nutrients, because it's so processed. And they have to pump things into it to keep it to stay longer, to get it to taste better, to get you to come back and stay addicted to their product. And they pump these things like salts in them. So just know that empty calories aren't a real thing. The nutritional value of food isn't always a great way to judge, is a food good or bad? Because again, the McDonald's cheeseburger is loaded with nutrients. And so too much of anything is a bad thing, right? And so, yeah, Victoria, at McDonald's, bring me some too, please. And so too much of anything is a bad thing. And so just know that, right? So we know like electrolytes are super good for us. They do all types of good stuff, but they could also cause high blood pressure. Sugar is good for us, especially if we're exercising, but it could also cause diabetes. Protein is good for us, could cause liver failure. Right. And so it's like too much of anything is a bad thing. So just know that. So wrapping up our calorie conversation before we pivot into macros, put it in the chat box. How many calories are in 1 pound of body fat? We talk about this all the time if you're a Facts Over Fats client and you show up to your calls. How many calories are in 1 pound? If I wanted to lose 1 pound of fat, how many calories are in 1 pound of stored body fat? How do I respond when someone says all sugar is bad? I say, hey, would you want to be a high-end elite athlete like LeBron James or Brett Favre or whoever? I just like list off some like high-end celebrity athlete, and I'm like, hey, their diet is loaded with sugar. So that's what I would say. That's a very smart ass answer. And so what I say is too much sugar when you're not utilizing it because you have a sedentary lifestyle and you don't exercise is bad for you. But if we are active and we're exercising, and we need to realize that even when we start to eat complex carbs, let's call it oatmeal, let's call it brown rice, sweet potatoes, quinoa, your body breaks it down and turns it into sugar so that you can utilize it. Sugar is our primary energy source and fuel source for exercise. And so everything's going to get broken down and turned into sugar eventually. And so just know that. And then just know that, hey, if we can go the more complex route, if we're sedentary, but if we're active, sugar's a pretty good thing. So Cami said 3,500. She is correct. She's the only one who got it right. Oh yeah, Betty said 3,500. 3,500, and then Cami said 3,500. So 3,500 calories is in 1 pound of body fat. So if I wanted to lose a pound per week and I divided that out by 7, I would have to be in a 500 caloric deficit every day, right? If I was going to be an equation, which we're not an equation, but just for simple math purposes. So when we start talking about your metabolism and how many calories you burn every single day, and if you want to lose a pound per week, that's how much you would need to reduce that number by. If I wanted to lose 2 pounds per week, I would need to reduce it by double that. If I wanted to lose 3 pounds per week, so on and so forth. So if you're burning, for ease of math purposes, let's say Jim is burning 3,000 calories, and he's like, no, it's not the good math. Let's do, how do I get there? Let's do 3,500 calories and a day, and I give him a 1,000-calorie diet, and he's burning 2,500 calories every single day. He's in a deficit of 2,500 calories. He's losing almost a pound. So every 2 to 3 days, he's going to be losing a pound per day. That sounds great. Boom. At the end of the week, Jim's 3 to 4 pounds down. It's probably also low carb, so he's losing some water weight. He's probably like 5 pounds down a week. How long do you think Jim can really survive on a 1,000-calorie diet? And survive mean like he can survive, but survive meaning like live a decent life and be happy with his nutrition and the food he's eating and be able to think appropriately and to be able to be active and all that stuff, like, yeah, it wouldn't go very good. All righty. So is it a cool approach to be like, hey, can I do this extreme caloric cut and starve myself to lose 5, 10, 15 pounds in a very short period of time? Absolutely. Now, also know that when you do anything extreme in any direction, your body is going to rebound 10 times faster. So that's why we're able to gain the weight back so fast after we do something so crazy, because your cells are like, give me more, give me more, give me more. So the moment that you do it, it stores. Hormonally, it's also very damaging. So I know we think about hormones, we start thinking about hormones, we think about testosterone and estrogen and things like that. But also remember that your hunger hormones, or your hunger is controlled by hormones, leptin and ghrelin. And we talk about leptin and ghrelin a lot, and we can become leptin resistant. Leptin is the hormone that tells you that you're full, that you're content. You can become leptin resistant, which means you can always eat more. When you go into an extreme caloric deficit for a decent period of time, a couple weeks or a month or two, you can become leptin resistant, which is why almost all people who gain or lose a massive amount of weight, they gain like 110% back because they did it in a bad way, in a way that really kind of messed up those hunger hormones, and they became resistant. Okay, we know like people are insulin resistant, they have diabetes, but you can also be leptin resistant and continuously eat and never feel full. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. If you go on this extreme approach of, I'm just going to starve myself to lose a quick 10 pounds, you're probably going to gain 15 pounds back at least. All righty, so just be careful of that. Okay, so everything is in calories. We'll recap on calories before we jump into macros. But everything's in calories. A calorie is just a unit of energy. There's no such thing as a good calorie or a bad calorie or an empty calorie. It's just a calorie. Nutritionally dense foods by equation does not inherently make it healthy. Again, McDonald's cheeseburger is loaded up with all types of nutrients, sodium, potassium, things like that, which are the nutrients we're looking for. And so doesn't necessarily inherently make it healthy. And then too much of anything could be considered bad. All right. So even if we have fruit, super healthy for you, if you ate too much fruit, could you get diabetes? Maybe. So just know that too much of anything is a bad thing. All righty. So pivoting into macros, and alcohol are where we consume or where we get all of our calories from. There's nothing else that gives us calories besides our 3 macros and alcohol. Alcohol is not a macro. So put it in the chat box. What are our 3 macros? I'm going to write that out because that sounds stupid. What are our 3 macros? Hope that makes sense. Put it in the chat box. I always like to see how what order people put them in, because I am judging you by the order you put your macros. Super funny. I love it. If you said protein, carbs, fats in that order, you're correct. And there's no reason for it to be in that order, except that's the order I put them in. If you said carbs, fats, protein, you're probably like Taliban. If you said fats, protein, carbs, you're probably part of the cartel. And I think that's about it. That's the only way. I'm just kidding. If you said protein, carbs, fats, you're right. In any order, you're right. So those 3 things are the way that we get calories. That's what delivers calories to our body. Carbs and protein are the same. Does anyone know the caloric value of 1 gram of proteins and carbs besides my coaches and trainers on here? If I gave you 1 gram of protein, how many calories would it have? If I gave you 1 gram of carbs, how many calories would it have? 4, correct. So remember, this is really funny. Let's think about this. And I actually don't know the answer. And I'm going to use it for carbs in a second. Protein has 4 calories per gram. So if you have a protein shake, and let's just say it's 100% pure, it's 25 grams of protein, it should technically be 100 calories, okay? Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and you can have an amino acid supplement and it has 0 calories. How does that work? if amino acids create proteins and proteins have calories, how come amino acids don't have calories? Similar question, carbs have 4 calories per gram, and sugars are the building blocks of carbs, and sugars have 4 calories per gram. So we know that sugars has 4 calories per gram, carbs have 4 calories per gram. Why don't amino acids have a caloric value? I don't know. I really don't know the answer. It's just something that I like to think about. The answer is that they do have a caloric value. I don't know why companies just don't have to put them on the label. I'm not 100% sure. Super nerdy thing to think about. It keeps me up at night often. Just kidding, it doesn't. So 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carb, to include sugars. This could be, there's many, many versions of sugars. When we hear the word sugar, I think we mostly think of like table sugar. And so this pulls me into this whole sugar conversation where sugar is bad for you and sugar is addicting and so on and so forth. I want you to go eat a tablespoon of sugar. It is pretty gross. It's like not that good at all. Like go to your pantry, get some sugar and just eat it. It's not that good. Fructose is really good. Fructose is the sugar mostly coming from fruit, but fruit is not 100% fructose. Some of it's like 50-50 fructose to glucose, some is 70-30, 80-20, whatever the case may be. But there's also lactose, there's all types of sugars. And so just know that sugars are the building blocks of carbs. We like to think that, you know, our rices and potatoes and pastas and quinoa and stuff like that is healthy and then sugar is bad for you. But they all get broken down into sugars eventually anyway. So with that being said, when we start talking about the nutrient value of those carbs, we're start talking about like vitamins and minerals. So what vitamins and minerals are attached to the carbs? Some of the carbs also have fiber and protein, which would increase its complexity, which is why we say, hey, you need to eat complex carbs. What we're really saying is we need to eat carbs that are high in protein and high in fiber, which would be like black beans or quinoa or things like that, okay? So that's where we're coming from when people say, and again, most people don't know what they mean when they say you have to eat complex carbs, but that's what they mean. Get a carb that's higher in protein and higher in fiber. And that's going to slow down the digestibility, number one. So it's going to be it's going to more slowly increase blood sugar, which therefore would have a lesser of an insulin spike, which therefore would not push it into storage as fast as straight sugar or candy or a candy bar or a carb with less protein and less fiber. Okay, so that's what that means. I made a post today in the Facts Over Fads group about these insulin spikes and blood sugar spikes. And just remember that these spikes are not inherently bad. It's the continuation of the spike. Okay, it's not just, oh, I had this piece of candy and it went straight to my blood sugar and then the insulin got raised as well. And then it got stored straight as fat. That little minute moment in time doesn't matter as much as your whole day does. Alrighty, so we can have these little spikes and it's totally okay. But if the remainder of the day we're relatively low, we have a lower sugar plan, or we have a higher complexity plan with high protein, high fiber, high fats, then that little minute spike doesn't matter. So when you hear these supplement companies or even just coaches in general say, don't eat that, it causes a sugar spike. Cool, almost everything can cause a sugar spike, but are we partnering it up with some good protein, some good fiber, and some good fats? If so, there's nothing that you need to worry about unless you're already subject to being diabetic genetically or high cholesterol or things like that, okay? And we can always change around your macros because of that as well. So we've got calories, we got carbs and protein is 4. How many calories are in a gram of fat? A gram. Okay, Betty, you like jumped the gun. Betty like knew I was gonna ask that. You like said 9 before I even finished my sentence, cheater. I love it. So fat is the most energy dense macro that we have. It gives us the most amount of energy for the same amount. A gram is a weight. It's 1 gram of protein is equal to 1 gram of carbs is equal to 1 gram of fat. It's just a weight measurement. It's the same question when we say, what weighs more, a pound of bricks or a pound of feathers? And the answer is they both weigh a pound. Okay, same when we're talking about grams. 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of carbs, 1 gram of fat. It's the same weight measurement. So for the same weight, fat is going to give us more energy. Okay, so we can get a little out of control with calories coming from fats if we enjoy our cheeses, our avocados, our butters, our oils, our almonds, pecans, things like that. It's very easy for us to get over in calories, mostly coming from fats if we don't pay attention to them. All righty. So just be careful there. And then last but not least, how many calories are in 1 gram of alcohol? 1 gram of alcohol. Dun, dun, dun. Coaches can't answer. Leslie can answer. She's an up and coming coach. Need to quiz her. No answers? Just Megan with a 9? Are we gonna go off of, I got you, Leslie. Are we gonna go off of Leslie's? Share is like 0 calories. Share, you're 1000% wrong. Nobody knows the answer. And this is why alcohol always gets, I got you, Leslie. This is why alcohol always gets to skate by. It's like, sugars are killing us, protein's bad for you, but my wine is totally fine. Because we don't know the value of alcohol. It's 7, Megan's right. She Googled it. So again, same weight from a gram of protein, a gram of carb, a gram of fat, a gram of alcohol, same weight, 7 calories. So more energy dense than protein than carbs, a little bit less energy dense than fats. Okay, it's coming in at 7. So when you go out and you're like, you know what, I'm on a diet, I'm gonna drink vodka tonics all night long with just water or tonic water and vodka, the vodka itself has calories. The stronger the alcohol, the more calories, and the weaker the alcohol, the more you're gonna drink, so the more calories. So alcohol is a lose-lose, right? Everyone's like, well, I'm drinking, you know, Miller Lite because it's only 90 calories. Okay, but you had 20 of them. So it doesn't really matter. Or versus you could have had 3 bourbons, right? And got the same drunk or the same tipsy. And the calories probably would have been the same because the bourbon is obviously stronger. So it means it has more calories per serving. And then the wine or the beer was weaker. So you had to drink more of them. And so again, it's kind of like a lose-lose unless you're going to stick to your quantity. So let's say you're like, I normally drink 5 margaritas because I love margaritas. And then one day I'm like, I'm on a diet. I'm going to switch to skinny margaritas and I'm only going to have 5. I'm going to stick to my 5. Well, yes, I will probably consume less calories because they're going to take away some of the sugar from the margarita juice or whatever they call it, the mixer, the mixed stuff, or whatever the case may be. And same thing with beer. If I'm a dark, let's say like I go to a brewery and I just love like the dark hoppy beers and I normally drink 5 or 6 and then I go to Miller Lite or Michelob Ultra or whatever the case may be and I stick to my 5 or 6, I will probably consume less calories. But if I'm searching for this feeling of like tipsiness or I want to get drunk or whatever the case may be, I would need to drink more because the alcohol is less, right? And so therefore we're going to increase our calories by drinking more. So a great thing to think about is there a lower calorie version of your preferred alcohol or a lower calorie option? And if there is, let's try it, but stick to your normal quantity of alcohol. That would be my biggest piece of advice. All righty. If you drink until you puke, is it diet alcohol? That's a good question. I don't know. We should try it. We should do a study. Let's drink. And after every drink, weigh in, right? So get on the scale, have a drink, get on the scale, have a drink, get on the scale, have a drink, throw up, get back on the scale and see what happens and see if you went back down to your starting weight before you started drinking. That would be great. Moonshine, Leanne, moonshine. You're a bigger man than me. I'll say that. I do like some moonshine. Moonshine is becoming more trendy since all like those little moonshine places have all those flavors and tasting and stuff like that. If you're from Tennessee, there's moonshine tasting places all over the place, which is always fun. Okay. So now let's talk about how these macros turn into energy for us. How do we get our grams of macros to get converted into calories, and how do we use them? And so we know that we inhale mostly oxygen and we exhale mostly carbon dioxide. There is something called your respiratory exchange ratio, super nerdy topic, but the exchange ratio between oxygen and carbon dioxide is actually how we dictate how many calories you're burning and where those calories are coming from. Is it mostly carbs, mostly fat, so on and so forth, your RER. So how does that happen? Well, all of our macros have a carbon molecule on them. So when we break down our macros, we release that carbon and we have to get rid of it. And so we breathe it out. Okay. And so that's how we know macros are our primary energy source. And then we also can, again, dictate how many calories you're burning by knowing how much carbon dioxide you are exhaling, which is pretty cool, okay, through your RER, which is exciting. So if you've ever gone or you have a place that you can go to get like your metabolism tested, what they'll do is they'll hook you up to a mask, and everyone's like, well, I don't get it. Well, it's because we're measuring the amount of carbon dioxide you're breathing out just by being at rest. So you'll go to this lab. It should be dark. You should be laying down, because even just turning on lights can increase your basal metabolic rate because your eyes are trying to adjust to the light. So it should be dark, and you have to stay awake. And so it's pretty cool. Lay there for like 20 to 30 minutes, and they'll be able to tell you how many daily calories you burn by laying down. And so we always tell people, the moment you get up or the moment you start thinking or the moment the lights turn on, you burn more calories than that. Now, there's all types of metabolism equations on Google that you could use to figure out how many daily calories you burn just by being alive. And then there's also multipliers that you can utilize if you exercise. So I exercise 3 times a week. What would that look like? 5 times a week? What would that look like? So on and so forth. But again, it's all just an equation. Best thing to do, figure out a calorie count for you, try to stick to it, measure your progress, increase or decrease as needed. Look at that, super simple. I just gave you the cheat code to being a nutrition coach. All right, so macros, protein, carbs, and fats, all of them have a carbon molecule on them. That's how we know that we are utilizing them for energy, because we breathe out carbon dioxide. All right, super excited, super nerdy. So why do macros matter? Why is getting a macro breakdown, or your grams of protein, grams of carbs, grams of fats within a good breakdown or split for you? Why is that important? Because we can change things drastically based off of your macro breakdown. So this math is going to be way wrong, so no one write this down or listen. So let's say we have a 2,000 calorie diet, and I wanted to break that up, and I wanted to give you 200 grams of protein, 150 grams of carbs, and 60 grams of fats. That equals 2,000 calories. It doesn't. Just go with me. Or I wanted to give you 100 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, 10 grams of fats. Okay, that equals 2,000 calories too. So there's many different ways that I can get you to 2,000 calories by changing up your macros. And the reason would be, is someone sedentary or is someone not sedentary? That would be reason number one. Reason number two, performance goals. What kind of athlete are you? What kind of workouts and exercise are you doing? That would be another reason to change up your macros. Health concerns. Do you have diabetes? I should probably change up your macros. Do you have high cholesterol? I should change up your macros. Do you have congestive heart failure? I should probably change up your macros. All of those things I can manipulate macros for. To include body composition is another one. Do we want to burn more fat, build more muscle? Are we in a cut? Are we in a surplus? Changing up your macros based off of that as well. And then body types. There's all types of research that show people who are heavier set genetically. So we have 3 different body types: endomorphs, ectomorphs, and mesomorphs. People who are more heavy set, we know they do better on a lower carb plan. People who are skinnier genetically do better with more carbs. And then mesomorphs are like the combination of the best of both. They can kind of do either one and still see pretty good progress. Now, even though we can break people up into 3 different categories and give them certain macro splits based on that, it's not 100% tried and true for everyone. So that's where you as an individual also comes into play. And that's where people get by saying, you know, you need a customized meal plan, or no 2 people are the same. So no 2 people should be following the same diet, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's true. And so know that if I love to eat rice at every single meal, some of y'all would feel bloated, have an upset stomach, feel heavy, be tired, so on and so forth, because your body reacts differently to rice. Why? No idea. But maybe you do better with pasta. Maybe you do better with potatoes. Maybe you do better with quinoa. Maybe you do better with, I don't know, whatever the case may be. So we can just sub out different foods for the same macro to give you a better feeling. We talk about this a lot, especially Stacy and I. If you're an athlete, don't go changing up your food sources the day or the week of your event. So my runners who are like, you're at the event picking up your packet and your whatever you call it, your bib, and you see a booth for some beet juice and you've never had beet juice before, don't drink beet juice the day before your run, you silly goose. All righty, your stomach could get upset. You could have diarrhea and be throwing up, and don't do it. All righty. So don't change a thing, because if you are in a consistent routine, that routine is much more important than the benefits of beet juice, especially if it's going to cause you some GI discomfort. Okay, so stay consistent with your plan, stay consistent with your training and sources of food, and I promise you, you'll have a much better competition. So why macros matter? Again, personal preferences would be number 1. Do you just prefer to eat more fats, prefer to eat more carbs, whatever the case may be? Body composition, health concerns, what kind of exercise are you doing? Can I expedite some progress by limiting carbs, helping you lose more water weight, seeing the scale go down? And that's a really motivating factor for you. Absolutely. I can utilize macros all these ways to deliver you a different experience. Okay, so that's why macros matter. Carbon is the reason why we know we're burning macros for energy, because we release carbon dioxide while we breathe. And so that's always exciting to think about as well. All righty. So any questions before we dive into routines? I'm going to challenge everyone to create a routine for me in a second. But do we have any questions on calories and macros before we move on? Any nerdy questions that I can pick apart? Who's guest iPhone? Guests. Are you a guest? You're not welcome here. I'm just kidding.
Is it me?
No, yours says Letty.
All right.
Sorry. No questions on calories or macros? All right, 15 minutes left. Let's take a sip. Let's get into a routine. All right, so remember I talked earlier about the spark of drinking this cinnamon ginger boiled water that this lady said, you don't have to exercise, you're going to lose all this weight. The spark. I'll give you a real life example. Last month, we did the hardest challenge ever. 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 300 squats every day for the month of July. We had 130 something people sign up. Insane. That's the spark. This month, we have an easy plank challenge. Some of it's my fault because I was moving. I didn't really ask people to sign up very often, but we only have 35 people signed up, right? So sometimes the spark is something crazy. And sometimes that spark is exactly what we need to kick our butt into high gear, is something crazy. So when we think about extreme examples of routines, sometimes a crazy spark is what we need. Hey, wake up at 5 a.m. You're like, I haven't woken up at 5 a.m. since like the 3rd grade. That might be what we need to kick our booty into overdrive. Now, somewhere along the line, though, the spark is going to dwindle down. And that's where we have to be able to throw whatever word you want in there, discipline, I don't know, no excuses. I don't know what other word you can put in there, but that's where the rest of those words would come in rather than like this motivation, this spark, this thing like that, because it's going to die down. So when we start to think about a routine, I think where people fail is that we don't become solutions oriented with our routine. We make a routine and we come up with a plan, and I'm going to go train with Jim Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. those 3 days. And I'm going to work out on my own Tuesday, Thursday at 5 p.m. as well without him. Oh crap, a kid got sick. I got to stay home. I'm missing my session with Jim, whatever the case may be. What do I do? Nothing. I'm going to skip that day. And we need to realize that your routine can pivot. It can push or it can pull. We can make up for it on the back end. We can change things around at any given time. Oftentimes when our routine fails, it's because we built it and we want to stick to it as best as possible. And when we can't, we just immediately almost give up, which is very crazy to me. Another real life example, I was trying to move to Austin a couple weeks ago, and I had everything scheduled perfectly. I had movers coming, I had a walkthrough of the house, I had the closing time and day, I had a cleaning lady going to my old house, I had tenants moving in. If the first domino fell, everything else would have played out perfectly. The first domino didn't fall. So I could have panicked, I could have cried, I could have, just given up. But all I did was just start shifting things around to make sure that everything still got handled. And it's the same thing with your routine. If the first domino doesn't fall, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and work out. Well, I missed my alarm. What am I going to do now? Most people will just say, well, sorry, I'll try again tomorrow. But we have to get into the mindset of when else can I get my workout in, even if it's not as good of a workout as it should have been at 5 a.m. Can I go get in my 10,000 steps? Can I go for a walk after work or before dinner or after dinner? Can I do some reps, right? And so if the rep challenge taught me anything, it's that I can sweat a lot in 25 minutes by doing these reps, right? So normally I don't feel like I get a good workout unless I go to the gym for an hour, right? I'm like, oh, I need to go lift something heavy to feel like I get a good workout in. The rep challenge taught me that that's not true. Some push-ups and sit-ups and squats can tear my butt up really fast. And I felt amazing afterwards, right? So be ready to pivot, even if you think you have the most perfect routine, the most perfect fail-proof routine. Just know that something's going to get in the way eventually. And that's not a sign for you to give up. It's a sign for you to pivot, all right, and make a different decision at a different time of day, even if it includes changing up your entire workout routine for that day. Anything is better than nothing. So just make sure we do something, all righty? So I totally got off topic. Going back to the spark, going back to the thing. When people put challenges out there, that's realistically our human nature craves it. It's super crazy. I don't know why, but it's almost the harder it is, the more attracted we are to it. The what if I could actually do that? And so people waste tons and tons of money on crazy challenges that realistically they know they will never be able to do, but we're drawn to it. So let's take 75 hard for an example. The premise behind 75 hard is to do it every single day. And if you give up, you have to start over, right? Or if you miss something, you have to start over. But in a realistic lifestyle, if we miss a day, we didn't miss the whole day, right? So it's hey, you got to get 2 45-minute workouts in. One's got to be outside. You got to drink a gallon of water a day. You got to do so. Maybe you missed a workout. In my realistic world, does that mean I should start over? No, I think you just had a really decent day, 80%, 90%, and I think you keep on trucking. But oftentimes when we miss something, so people who fail at 75 hard, the problem is they never start back over, right? They have this one bad day. They know the rules is to start over, and they're like, well, screw it. I'm just never going to try again. And that's where we fail. You just need to pivot, or we just need to keep going. Even if we don't start, dang it, tomorrow's going to be my new day one. I'm going to end up doing 90 days of 75 hard instead of 75. Who cares? Keep going, right? Or just accept your 80 to 90% day and keep going, because it's better than a 0% day, right? And I think that's where we really struggle to have long-term success. Challenges are great because of the spark, but the spark is only as good as the fire that burns after, right? And so we have to keep the fire burning some way, somehow. And most of the time it's because we're pivoting. It's because we're changing things up. It's because we're putting more logs on the fire. Someone's got to keep up with the fire. It's not going to burn itself. So we've got to be figuring out what the logs are that we can continuously put on the fire to keep it burning. Challenges are great. Supplements are another great way to give that spark. If you go spend $300 at a supplement store with all the fat burners and all the protein powders and all the pre-workouts and all of this and all of that, I bet you tomorrow you're gonna be super motivated. I guarantee it, actually. Like, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to take these pills. I'm so excited to see all this progress. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna buy new gym clothes. I'm gonna get like my workout gear like laid out on my countertop, like like my mom did it for me back when I was in school. Like, boom, my day one after I spend $300 at a supplement store is like wild. What's going to happen on day 2 or day 3 or day 4 or day 5? That spark fizzles out. We've got to figure out how to pivot. When that spark fizzles out, we've got to figure out how to put logs back on it, and always come up with, it sounds silly, and I know there's 2 ends of the spectrum. One is obviously the mentality of, hey, burn the boats. If you burn the boats, if you take the island, I think Tony Robbins said it, the best way to take the island is to burn the boats. Do not have a backup plan. Force yourself into survival mode, which is great and can work for a lot of people. I'll tell you right now, if you are a spouse or a parent, that'll work. That option doesn't work for you. So you can't burn the boats. You have to have plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds and plan Es and plan Fs. You've got to be ready to pivot and execute. And if that fails, you got to pivot again, and you've got to execute. You've got to pivot again, you've got to execute. You have to come up with a way to pretty much train your brain to look at every setback as a new opportunity to do something else, right? And so as soon as a challenge comes up, instead of going into panic mode, go into solutions mode. Okay, this just happened. I can't fix it. I can't change it. Kiddos are sick. Spouse is sick. Someone got laid off from work. I got to leave work early. I can't go do my workout, whatever the case may be. Instead of panicking, go into solutions mode. All right, it's already done. I know I have to do it. I can't change it. So what can I change? I can change my workout time. I can change my workout duration. I can change my workout intensity. I can change my nutrition. I can change my step goal. I can change all of these things to still win the day. And which is where I talked about the low hanging fruit in the beginning. Whatever can be the lowest hanging fruit that you can do to make you feel the most rewarded or the most winning, like you won the day, do that. So again, a great thing would be like, hey, these 100, 200, 300 rep challenges takes me 20, 25 minutes. Sometimes 30 if I was being a bum. And so, but I know if I have that amount of time, I can still go get my workout in. So if my schedule gets pushed or pulled, or I can't do this or that, if I can still snag 20 to 30 minutes somewhere, I can get in a really good workout. And if I can't do that, can I go get some steps in and go for a walk? And if I can't do that, can I really prioritize my nutrition and just really win the day nutritionally? And if I can't do that, can I prioritize my water? And if I can't do that, can I go to bed on time? And if I can't do that, right? So like, just get into this mode of solutions oriented as every time crap hits the fan, and be able to pivot and execute and pivot and execute and pivot and execute and pivot and execute over and over and over again, all throughout the day, especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a single parent, and just be ready for it, because we know that it's going to come. And thinking you're going to stick to a routine with a family to keep in mind is obviously very, very crazy. Now, if you're single and you don't have any kids like me, life is so easy and you can just do whatever you want. I'm just kidding. That's not always true, because I have crazy clients like y'all that make my life so fun. So wrapping up routines, and then we can have a little powwow at the end if we need to. But if you need the spark, find the spark, whatever the spark may be. It could be, so Spartan has a really great motto, and it's just like, put a date on the calendar, and that's going to get your butt off the couch, right? So maybe the spark is signing up for something. Maybe the spark is a challenge. Maybe the spark is some sort of 8 to 10 week challenge, booty builder program, muscle builder program, weight loss program, whatever the case may be. Maybe the spark is a crap ton of supplements. Maybe the spark is medication. Maybe the spark is whatever the case may be. Whatever that spark is, go get it. I'm all about you going to get something that you need to do the spark. Another great spark is looking at yourself in the mirror and being unhappy. If you've never done that, a lot of us walk past the mirror when we're naked and we don't look at it. Go look at yourself naked. That'd be a pretty good spark, right? If you're not happy. So that can also be a spark. Compliments or lack of compliments could also be a spark. We could get into a total therapy session in about 10 seconds if I'm not careful. So I'm going to try to be careful there. But just know that whatever the spark is, I want you to find it, but we have to be ready to put logs on the fire. We've got to be ready to keep the fire going once we find that spark. And it comes down to a routine mostly, and it comes down to discipline to the routine, but also not being afraid to pivot when things go astray instead of giving up, right? When things go astray, people give up instead of pivoting. And I want you to pivot and execute, pivot, execute, pivot, execute. All righty. And that's my spiel. Now, Letty said she had a coach in high school to tell us not to use the word I can't and use another word the way we think, and use other word change the way we think. So,
Basically, she would tell us, don't use the word I can't. Like, I can't shouldn't be used, because then we automatically would say, yeah, I can't do it. So use another word, like she would say, I'll do better next time, or
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and that would totally change the way you would think about things. You know, like, because if you were using the word I can't, you already failed. Like,
yeah.
So.
I love it. And it's huge, right? So the way we talk to ourselves is huge. And once you get into this like quitting mindset or limited or restricted mindset, very tough to get out of, and also sets you up for failure through other things. So a cool thing about like, again, like the challenge that we did last month, or any challenge we do any month, is like, if you can do something like every day that's really tough, like what else can you go do? Like that's like so crazy to me. It's like y'all are like my marathon, like Stacy, bro, I'll take Stacy to war with me. Like Stacy does some crazy stuff. like Stacy and I are gonna go to war because her mindset is wild. Like she's just athlete from one event to the next event to the next event to the next. Like it's crazy to me. Her mindset is like, I don't know, maybe I'm like not, maybe she's like, Joseph, you don't really know this, but I eat 10 donuts every day. But I don't know. But she's like crazy, right? And so if you can get into that mindset of just, again, pivot, execute, pivot, execute, pivot, execute, no matter how big, no matter how small, that feeds into other areas of your life. So when your spouse or your work or your kiddos or whoever, family members have an issue, instead of like breaking down and crying with them, you become this really strong support role model, and you start providing solutions, and you start just becoming a better asset to whatever problem it is, right? And so that's where Letty earlier said your foxhole, right? Which is what David Goggins talks about. Like, who's in your foxhole? The person in your foxhole isn't the person like crying with you and being like, it's gonna be okay. The person in your foxhole is the one that's like, hey, here's the plan to get out of whatever situation you're in. And that's who you should want to be for other people, but also have the people around you be the same way. It's like, hey, like, I don't need you to feel sorry for me. I need you to help me with some solutions. Like, that's what I need. I need you to tell me to stop being a baby and get my booty up and go do what I need to do. So really positive there. Right. Oh, we're 2 minutes over. So I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to stop the recording.